There once was a king named Ibrahim. He was wealthy according to all the standards of worldly wealth. And at the same time, he was sincerely and restlessly striving to be spiritual. One night, he was aroused from his sleep by a fearful stomping on his roof. And he was scared. And so he called out, "Who is there?" "A friend," came the reply. "I've lost my camel." Now, angry because the man was so stupid that he'd be looking for a camel on Abraham's roof, he screamed, "You fool! Why are you looking for a camel on my roof?" And the voice came from above, "You fool! Why are you looking for God in silk clothing lying in a golden bed?" In the 21st century, we no longer look to our dreams to guide us as they did centuries ago. But the camel on the roof raises a primary question for all of us as we journey into this new year. Where will we be looking for God in 2017? The gospel reading in Matthew is a good reminder of something that I said Christmas Eve, which is a hint of where we might look. God will not be found where wealth and power reside. Instead, God will be found in the ordinary, the everyday, the common, signs all around us that we often overlook. Matthew calls to us who are already believers to be the friend on the roof, to be willing to be fools for Christ, for a world that's seeking God in all the wrong places. Matthew calls us to go home by another way today and to seek God where God may be found. The Magi, as described in Matthew's gospel, were probably Babylonian astrologers. Perhaps they were Zoroastrian priests from Persia. They weren't magicians or with otherworldly powers. They were learned men, and their knowledge was the stars. They read the stars as you and I might read the Advocate. The stars were their religion, and they looked to the stars to find God, signs of God in the world. And it was those stars that guided them to Bethlehem. They expected to find a prince surrounded by all the trappings of wealth and power, but they found a humble family beginning life in the most difficult of circumstances. And what is most remarkable is after this long journey that they'd taken, they didn't turn away, and even though they didn't find the great king they anticipated, they also didn't question themselves or the stars that had brought them there. They bowed down and worshiped with all they had to offer, the gold, frankincense, and myrrh. All their expectations had been turned upside down. They sought a king, but found a child. They sought great power and wealth, but they found humble poverty. They sought answers in the stars, but they found the truth in a manger. They sought meaning and purpose, and they found a child whose purpose was to free them from their sins. Their encounter with that babe in Bethlehem transformed them in ways they would contemplate for years. The Magi, first led by those stars, no needed any help to find their way. A light brighter than any star, the true light of God's love, had transformed them. And this revelation would be their internal guide. And in response, they would go home by a different way, guided by the light of love in their heart. Every year, we come to the manger, just like the Magi, seeking, searching, desiring answers to a multitude of questions. But there's only one answer: Jesus Christ, the light of the world. In the 60th chapter of Isaiah, the prophet gives a vision of the world after the Messiah had come. He writes, "For behold, darkness shall cover the earth and thick darkness the peoples. But the Lord will arise upon you, and his glory shall be seen upon you. And nations shall come to your light, and the kings to the brightness of your rising." We still seek him, and his light still shines brightly. Christ's light shines in the efforts of those who seek God with all their being, humble themselves before him, and worship God with gladness. Christ's light shines in the actions of faithful who continue to reveal God's love every day of their lives through acts of compassion, mercy, and justice. Christ's light shines in the faces of those who open themselves to the mystery of God's saving grace and depend upon its salvation. Christ's light shines so that you and I might find our way to him. The journey of the seeker, though, is not an easy one. There may be deserts of despair, cities of anguish, jungles of obstacles. But be of good courage and of good heart. God's truth will guide you. God's mercy will be a balm to your wounds, and God's holy word will comfort, and the light of God's love will never fail you. As a seeker of Christ's light in the world, you will encounter those who will call you crazy. You may even meet those who doubt you. You may even doubt yourself at times. Some may even scoff at you. Others may try to trick you. You may even feel foolish as the man looking for a camel on a roof. But never give up. Never give up. For the light of God's love is all around us, in every face, in every act of compassion, in everyone, if we just have eyes to see. Henry Van Dyke told a wonderful story many years ago, which I'd like to share with you. In the mountains of ancient Persia lived a man by the name of Artaban, whose study of the planets and the stars led him to predict the birth of the King of Kings. So he sold his house and every possession, and he purchased a sapphire, blue, and a flawless ruby, and a lustrous pearl that he intended to give all to the king. And then he set out to the place that he had arranged to meet with 3 other wise men. After many weeks of difficult travel and frustrating delays, one night in his travels, he saw a dying man beside the road. As he hurried past, the man begged him for help. Artaban hesitated. He knew if he lingered, he would miss his friends. But if he left, the man would die. So he returned to the sick man and carefully tended to him, saving his life. When Artaban reached the meeting place, he received the message, "We can delay no longer. Follow us across the desert." So Artaban sold the sapphire, bought a train of camels and provisions for the journey, and went on. And when he arrived at the place of the star, he met a woman and her son who told them that Joseph had taken his wife and child and fled Bethlehem because Herod was slaying all the male children. The terrified young mother clasped her own son to her, and Artaban knew immediately what he must do. He held out the ruby to the soldier that had come to take her son, and the soldier eagerly snatched it away and said, "March on, there is no child here." Artaban then wandered for 33 years in search of that family from Bethlehem. Worn and weary and ready to die, he still looked for the king. And he came one last time to Jerusalem at the end of his life, hearing that a great person was to be put to death that very day. And hearing about all his life and teachings, Artaban realized that this was the king he had sought so long ago. And so as he made his way to Golgotha, hoping that this pearl could save this man's life and give his release, he saw a troop of soldiers marching down the street, dragging a young girl in chains. "Have pity on me. Save me," she said. "I am to be sold as a slave." And the fourth wise man knew again what he must do. He exchanged the girl's freedom for a pearl. And then he heard a gentle voice saying, "Truthfully, I tell you, whatever you have done for the least of these, you have done for me." His journey had ended. The fourth wise man had indeed found the king. When your journey is complete, you find yourself kneeling in the presence of the King of Glory. Humble yourself in worship and offer all that you have, all that you could be. For like the Magi, you will see the very glory of God, and you will never be the same. You will be transformed, and you will go home by a different way.